What is up, guys? Stark here. I am back for another Fate video, and in today's video we are going to be doing a tier list, and we're going to be going ahead and ranking all of the costume dresses in Fate Grand Order. So this will include the NA dresses and the JP dresses, however it will not include the simple ones. So the simple costumes such as BB Summer, like the alteration to her character there, or like Lee, Old Man Lee with the glasses off. I'm gonna include those, so it's just gonna be like the unique costumes. But I am including the JP ones just because, you know, there's some really cool ones on there, some I'm really looking forward to, and it does give us a lot more to go ahead and rank. So these do look like they're in alphabetical order, so we're just gonna go ahead and go through them one at a time. And there's really not much to talk about as far as just which ones I like. Costume dresses, if you don't know, they just change the costumes. They don't do anything else. They don't change the skills. They don't have any impact on the character at all. With the slight exception of Mash, one of hers does change her skills, but that's strictly for like story and stuff. You can change it outside of that, but that's not even on the list of ones I'm ranking. So really, it's just purely cosmetic. So we're just gonna go ahead and rank the ones that we think look cool, and put them into separate tiers. Just a standard tier list: S, A, B, C, D, F. So we're just gonna go ahead and go through it. Personal opinion only, and let me know in the comments down below which ones you guys think you agree with, which ones you disagree with, which ones are your favorites, and all that cool stuff. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, so first up we have Arjuna's costume. This will be available on the 5th anniversary for Fate Grand Order, so we should be getting that this year, I believe. Pretty much is just him taking a bath with playing with some ducks. Not sure if it's a real duck or not, but he's kind of just chilling in hot springs. But yeah, overall, I don't really like Arjuna that much as a character, and this artwork really doesn't do much for me. It's better than his standard artwork, but for me personally, not a big fan of it. So we're gonna put it in the D tier, just because it is slightly better than his original artwork. So gotta get a little points there. Not all of them are better than their original artworks, so you do have to keep that in mind. But yeah, I don't really care too much for the bath time Arjuna. All right, next up we have the male version of Arthur Pendragon, coming out with his white rose suit. So looking pretty spiffy right there, I'm not gonna lie. Definitely dig that, as opposed to the hood that he's flashing earlier on in his other costume. But yeah, this one's available in the Chaldea Boys collection. It's been out for a little while now. It's also available in the Da Vinci's Workshop for an exchange if you did miss it. But, you know, I do think it's pretty spiffy, pretty nice. I think it's a pretty big improvement to his original. So we are going to go ahead and drop it into the B tier there for that one. Alright, next up we have Artoria Pendragon Alter's Shinjuku costume. Definitely one of the earlier ones that were released in the game. But, well, actually, it really wasn't that early, man. It feels like it's been out for quite some time, but I guess it really hasn't. Regardless, though, really cool costume in my opinion. Definitely one of my favorites. Available in the Da Vinci Workshop as an exchange. And I don't know. I don't know about you guys. I think this one's a really cool artwork. Her original Ascension artwork is really cool too. So it is a slight improvement, but just overall, just really cool artwork, really cool design. So we're gonna go ahead and drop that. Ooh, S or A. I do really like it, but is it enough to go into the S tier? I think I'm gonna drop it in the A tier, honestly, guys. You know, the S tier has to be like some like top tier stuff, and I just don't think Artoria gets there just yet. All right, next up we do have Astofo in his casual suit here, costume. I do think it's really cool. Astofo is definitely one of my favorite characters in the series. Still waiting for that Saber version to come out. Now, here's the thing though that I have with it. I actually think it is a bit of a downgrade from his Final Ascension artwork in his original. So I can't give it too much points there, but it is Astofo, and, you know, that's a good thing. So We're going to go ahead and actually we're going to drop it into the B tier for that, just because it's Astofo mainly. Next up, we have Altera's costume dress. Now this is one of a huge bunch of costumes that we get all at the same time for the Grail Live event. Something I'm very excited for to get on NA. We still got a little bit of time before that happens though, unfortunately for us. But this one is a huge upgrade, in my opinion, from her original Ascension artwork. And this is definitely how I think that all costume dresses should look, just making massive increases from their base till the costumes. Definitely amazing artwork, and I really like it. It makes me want to use Altera just because of the costume. So I'm pretty big fan of it. So we're gonna go ahead and move it up into the A tier here. I wonder if I'm being a little bit too harsh on the S tier here. Maybe we'll go back around later on at the end and see if we can do a few little changes to some of these. Alright, so next up we have Bedivere in his butler costume. And if you ask me, I feel like this costume just suits him to a T perfectly. It's definitely a better version, better artwork than his Final Ascension artwork. So we are going to go ahead and actually drop that into the A. I think it's very fitting for him. Perfect choice for the costume for Bedivere. Alright, next up we have Edmund Dantes with his summer outfit. This was available in the Summer Summer Festival. Summer Dantes, really cool costume. I love the artwork of Dantes. He's from the person who drew it is from Danganronpa, the illustrator. So always a huge fan of these artworks. And Dante's a really cool character. It's a huge upgrade from his normal Ascension. So we're gonna go ahead and move that over to the A tier as well. So quickly filling up the A tier there. Alright, next up we have Emiya's summer costume. It's very casual. Not a whole lot going on in it, honestly. It's just a super casual, super clean looking picture of Emiya. So, you know, not much more about the casual there, but I'm just going to go ahead and drop into the C tier. Just really not a huge fan of this one. I love his Final Ascension artwork as his normal version of the character. This is going to be available for this year's summer event, I believe. I'll definitely get it and pick it up, but I'm not too sure how much I'll actually be using it. I really do like his normal Ascension and his normal artwork just a little bit more. Alright, next up we have Uriel, who is going to get a pretty cool costume for the Grail Live event as well. You're going to hear me say that a lot. There was a lot of costumes in Grail Live. So I do like the costume. Don't get me wrong, I do like the costume, but it's really not much of a difference, in my opinion, from her normal one to her costume. It has the very similar feel to it, and like it doesn't even look like much has changed, just for like her positioning on the actual portrait itself. Still pretty cool though, so we're gonna go ahead and drop it into the B tier. Alright, next up we have Fumakotaro, who is going to be coming out in the Las Vegas summer event costume. In my opinion, it's just another casual costume. It really doesn't do a whole lot for me. I actually prefer his Stage 3 Ascension artwork the most. But his Ninja Attire artwork is just not clicking with me. I'm going to go ahead and drop it into the... Next up, we have Caster Gilgamesh in his summer casual costume as well. This was available in the same event as Dante's. And much like Emiya, it looks cool, but just doesn't do a whole lot for me. It's just a very casual costume. So we're going to go ahead and drop it into the C tier. Alright, next up we do have Serenity, who's going to get a costume for the Grail Live event. Most of these Grail Live event costumes were pretty much on point, if you ask me. There were a couple exceptions, if be honest with you. We'll get to some of those a little bit later on. But as for Serenity, a huge upgrade from her main Ascension artwork. Really love the portrait, really love the design. Just a fantastic costume in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and drop her into the A tier for that. I promise there will be S's in this video. Alright, next up we have Helena's costume for the Grail Live event as well. It's a little bit trippy if you ask me for her costume. I do think it is a bit of an improvement from her normal costume, but I really don't like her normal costume that much to begin with. So that wasn't going to be very difficult to actually pull off. But as far as overall rankings go, I'm not a huge fan of this one. So we're going to actually go ahead and just drop it straight into the C tier. Alright, next up we have James Moriarty. Going full bartender for this one. I've never been a huge fan of this character, but I do think it is a bit of an upgrade from his Final Ascension artwork. His Final Ascension artwork just has a lot going on in there. It's just a little confusing, a little hard to keep track of it. But the full bartender looks pretty cool in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and drop it into the B tier. Alright, next up we have Jalter and her Shinjuku dress as well. Well, I guess it's not really a Shinjuku dress. It's just, yeah, it is Shinjuku. Yeah. Don't mind me, just being stupid. It is a Shinjuku costume. I do think it's really cool. It's pretty much on par with the Artoria one. So we're going to go ahead and bring it up to the A tier. I do feel like these two might actually end up being S tier by the end of this video. But we'll go back and look at it at the end and see if I have a change of heart by the end. And see exactly how many, S tiers I have. I promise there will be S tiers. And speaking of S tiers, we're going to get our first one here with Joan of Arc with her Prove costume. I absolutely love the artwork for this. It just perfectly nails down the character in my opinion. And her Final Ascension artwork is really good as well, but I just think the Prove artwork is perfect in my opinion for her. So we're going to go ahead and drop that into our S tier as our first S tier costume. Alright, next up we have Karna and his 4th Lost Belt, I don't know, Super Saiyan, Super Karna costume. Now, if you know anything about me, you know Karna is one of my favorite servants in the game, so maybe you might think automatically that he's going to go into the S tier. But no, he's not actually going to go in the S tier. I'm going to go ahead and bring him into the A tier, and that's his Ascension artwork. It looks really cool, but it just looks a little funky in my opinion. If you ask me, it doesn't look very polished. It doesn't look very complete. But it is Karna. His sprite looks just absolutely insane, and I love it. But as for the actual costume design and the portrait artwork and stuff, it just looks a little unfinished. It looks a little bit messy, I guess, if you'd say, and that does kind of hold it back from being in the S tier, even if it is Karna. All right, next we have Lanling, his summer costume as well. It is an upgrade from his normal Ascension artwork, but I'm not really a huge fan of this character or any of his artworks for that matter. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop this over in the C tier. Really, it doesn't do much. This character doesn't do much for me. I don't think I've ever used him, actually. Alright, next up we have Da Vinci here, the writer version of Da Vinci. She's going to get a costume for the anniversary, for the 5th anniversary. And I really don't like this one, honestly. So the portrait looks pretty cool as far as the artwork goes, but I do think that her Final Ascension artwork is better. And I do also think that the sprite is really annoying looking. And I just think that her normal sprites are just better. I don't think there was a need for this. Actually, this might be a little controversial, but I'm actually going to drop her down to the D tier. I'm not a huge fan of this costume at all. Alright, next up we have the first official costume dress that was released in the game. It's just MASH in a swimsuit. Pretty standard stuff here. However, I definitely don't think it's her best costume out there. There's better ones. I guess we're going to talk about them all in a row. But for this MASH one, I'm just not really a huge fan of this one. So I'm actually going to just go ahead and drop it into the C tier. It's pretty generic. It was the first one, so you really can't expect too much from it. But it was a cool concept at the time. And they've definitely expanded on it in future costume dresses, which is exactly what we're going to talk about here with her second swimsuit. Swimsuit version 2.0 was definitely a huge step forward in the right direction. This one definitely hit the marker for what we're looking for with MASH in a swimsuit. And we're just going to go ahead and bring that straight up to the S tier. And then for MASH's third and final costume, this will be another one that was available with the Grail Live event. And, it wasn't a summer one, which is a little unfortunate. I think a lot of people were hoping maybe for a summer 3.0. Just keep getting better and better. I do think Bright Voyager is a pretty cool costume. I think it's better than her original one. Not quite up to the S tier level, though. So we're going to go ahead and put her in the B tier. Alright, so next up we have a couple costumes here for Queen Meve. So we're going to go ahead and talk about both of them. The first one is her, prison costume outfit thing. Not a real big fan of this one. It definitely was one of the first ones in the game, so I guess they're kind of still feeling their way with these costumes. But the Chief Warden dress honestly just really didn't do it for me, so we're gonna go ahead and drop that down into the D tier. But they learned their lesson, and the Grail Live costume for Queen Meve was definitely a huge improvement, and definitely, in my opinion at least, was definitely a huge improvement. And we're just gonna go ahead and bring that right up to the A tier. Next up, we have Merlin in his summer costume, which isn't exactly a summer costume, but regardless, it's a casual costume for Merlin. Just not really a huge fan of it. I loved Merlin's character design, and I don't think I'll ever actually use his casual one, so we're gonna go ahead and drop it with the other casuals into the C tier. Next up, we have Mordred in pretty badass looking costume there, if you ask me. Probably one of my favorite costumes in the entire game. Cannot wait until we get this on NA. Mordred is one of my favorite characters as well, but this artwork is just amazing and needs to be in the S tier. Alright, next up we have Nero Claudius and her 3 dresses. So we're going to go ahead and talk about them all. First one is the Olympian Bloomers one. It's pretty cool if you ask me. I think that was a pretty cool one for Nero Fest and stuff. It wasn't anything special, but you know, I did like it. So go ahead and drop that into the B tier. Next up, we do have her Silk of Venus costume, which again is a pretty cool costume if you ask me. I think it's better than her original one, so it was a nice step in the right direction, and you know, it was another one available for the 5th anniversary. So we're gonna go ahead and, you know, move that up to the A tier. And then we have Nero's costume for the Grail Live event. So, you know, you would think it went from B to A, so naturally it would go to S tier, right? Well, unfortunately, no, that's not quite the case. So Nero didn't really need his costume for Grail Live event. There were plenty of other characters that could have gotten it instead. And honestly, if you ask me, I think this is the worst costume from the Grail Live event. Maybe the worst costume that we've had in the game so far. And unfortunately, I am going to drop it down into the F tier. I'm just not a fan of this one. If you like the costume, like, that's cool for you. I definitely think it's the worst of her 3, and she didn't need this costume at all. So, oh yeah, I don't know, just doesn't do it for me. So, unfortunately, Nero does grab that F tier ranking. Next up, we do have Nito Chris getting a Grail Live costume, and this one definitely goes in the right direction. Definitely like the artwork. Not really sure if I like it more than her original one, but her original one was pretty cool, and so is this one. So we're going to go ahead and put that one in the B tier. Alright, next up we have Okada Izo, and he does have 2 costumes. Unless I'm missing it, I don't actually see his second one there on the screen. I'm not sure what happened there. I don't know why that didn't get added in. But regardless, I do think both of his costumes are really cool, and both of them are about similar in appearance for me, so they're both going to be in the B tier. And if I am missing his other picture, then I'm just going to go ahead and add that later on. And that makes me wonder if there's another dress that didn't get added in. I'll have to do a quick recap at the end to see if I missed anything. Alright, next up we have Parvati's costume, and this one definitely is pretty controversial if you ask me. I think the whole concept was to make her look a lot more like Sakura than she does originally. She doesn't really look like Sakura that much, even though she is a Sakura face. So I guess the concept was to make her look like Sakura. I don't think it actually worked. And I feel like if they were going to do a dress for Parvati, they should have just done something different instead of trying to make her look like Sakura. And but they did do that, and it didn't work. So we're going to go ahead and drop it into the F tier, unfortunately, as well. So speaking of Sakura, if you have seen the Heaven Feels movies, the next costume definitely reminds me of something that came out of her magical trip. And this one is going to be Paul Bunyan with their bunny costume, and it is a little trippy, but I don't really care for it too much if you ask me. I think it is slightly better than their normal Ascension artwork, but I just don't really care for it too much, so we're going to go ahead and put it into the D tier, unfortunately. Alright, next up we have Robin Hood, and as far as his summer costume goes, it's pretty much the same here. It's just a casual summer costume. There's really not a lot going on here, and so I'm also going to just go ahead and drop this one into the C tier. I guess it's just a matter of opinion and taste, but yeah, the abs really don't do a whole lot for me, so C tier there. Alright, next up we have Blackbeard or Edward Teach as a costume dress here. Now, he's all spiffy and casual as well, but he does still hold true to his character. You guys can see the books in the background. You can see that Drake figure. So he looks pretty clean, he looks pretty awesome, and I'm actually going to go ahead and give this one up a little bit upgrade to the B tier. So unlike the other casuals, he still definitely holds true to his own character, and just a huge upgrade from his overall original artwork. So that's definitely why he gets a little bit of a boost there into the B tier. Alright, next up we have Shiro and his Phantom Thief costume. This is a really cool event. It had a lot of really cool like scenes and stuff in it, and I do like the costume as well. The artwork is pretty cool, the design is pretty cool, and it just kind of fits his character pretty perfectly, if you ask me. So I will actually go ahead and put it into the A tier. Next up we have Achilles and his Fearless Diver costume. This is a really cool costume. Definitely one of my favorite male servant costumes in the game, and it's Achilles. He's just a pretty badass character to begin with, so we're going to go ahead and drop that right into the S tier. Next up we have Mangicardo and his summer costume. Again, much like the other male characters with summer costumes, most of them anyway, it's just a casual costume, doesn't do a whole lot for me. We're going to put it into the C tier. Alright, next up we have Kintoki and his warrior attire. And this is something that was ripped straight out of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Sure, a lot of people have made that comparison before me, but it just stands to reason. This is one of the coolest costumes in the game, and I want to pull Kintoki just for the sole reason of getting this costume. Definitely deserving of S tier, 100% in my opinion. All right, next up we have Skahak in her bunny costume. Really, just those words together is enough. And the artwork is pretty fantastic to go with it, though. But it's not quite S tier in my opinion. We are going to go ahead and bring it up to the A tier. But I'm very excited for the event and that costume overall. Next up, we do have Shootin' Doji in her kimono costume. It's a pretty cool costume. I'm not a huge fan of Shootin' Doji overall. I'm not a big fan of their character design. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it is a pretty cool costume. So I'm going to go ahead and actually drop it into the B tier. Alright, next up we have Siegfried and his super cool Blitz costume. This is his summer costume, pretty casual as well. He does get a bit of extra bonus points there just because he's actually doing something. So he's playing poker. I'm a huge fan of poker. He looks really cool in this costume as well. So we're going to go ahead and give him the B tier ranking. Next up we do have Sigurd here in his summer costume as well. Again, this is a super casual summer male servant for me, so I'm just going to drop it right into the C tier. Now, I do think his is slightly better, probably put him closer to like the top of the C tier. I didn't really do this specifically in any straight order, but it looks pretty cool just because of the colors, but again, it's just a super casual costume. Alright, next up we have Tamamo Cat and the Grail Live costume for Tamamo. Me personally, not a huge fan of this costume. I do think it's much better than her 4th Ascension artwork or Final Ascension artwork, but the costume overall just doesn't do it for me. We're going to drop her into the D tier. And then finally, the last one I have here, I'm going to have to do a double take to make sure that I didn't miss anything besides the other Okada, is going to be Ushi Wakamaru in her Grail Live costume. And this is definitely one of my favorite Grail Live costumes as well. Ushi Wakamaru is a really cool character, and this is just a huge upgrade to her Stage 4 Final Ascension artwork, and I just have to go ahead and put that right into the S tier. Alright, so it does look like that I got all the costumes except for that one Okada. I'm not sure what happened there, but he would have been in the B tier anyway, so yeah, there is my ranking. Let's go ahead and rank them overall to see which ones I like more. So let's see. Do I like the Joan one more than the MASH one? Yes. Do I like Mordred more than MASH? Yes. I like Mordred more than Joan. I think yes as well. Achilles more than Mash. No. Kintoki more than Achilles. Yes. More than Mash. Yes. Yes. Do I like Kintoki's? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Ushi's more than Achilles. Yes. More than Mash. Yes. More than Joan. Yes. All right. So I think that's my ranking for the S tier. For A tier, let's see. I like that more. Dante's more than Bedivere. Gonna have to bring Bunny up here. Yes. Yes. Ooh. I think Karna goes right there. Bunny goes right there. Then Serenity, Dante's. Like that looks, I think that looks pretty clean right there. As far as B tier goes, let's see. They're all pretty much the same tier. Okada does have some pretty good ones there. And Uriel's is pretty nice. Alright, as far as C tiers, I do think Sigurd's is pretty good there. Let's move him over here. Mash is probably pretty close to the end for that. Robin Hood does have some pretty good abs. We'll move him up there. Doesn't matter too much overall, but let's see. Merlin. No, yeah, Merlin's a little bit better there. D tier, really not too much to really worry about too much with the D tier. But just for the sake of doing it, let's do it. And then F tier, we'll go like that. Alright, so there's my overall rankings there. So I think that Kintoki has the best costume in the game, followed by Mordred, then Ushiwakamaru, then Joan, then Summer 2 Mash, and then Achilles to round off the S tiers. I am going to leave the Shinjuku costumes in the A tier. They are really cool, but just don't quite jump into the S tier as well. So do have them organized by rank, by tier. So that's it, guys. Let me know what you guys think about the overall ranking there for that. Feel free to disagree with me. Let me know what your comments are. Which ones I missed the mark on, which ones I hit the mark on, which ones you guys are your favorite costumes in the game, which characters would you guys love to see costumes get, like which characters that don't have costumes get costumes. I didn't really think about that before I made this video. I just kind of thought about that right now as I was talking. But let's see, if I had to make a quick guess, I would definitely say like Ishtar Reshkigal with Spiritron dresses, costumes, whatever you want to call them. I definitely think those would be my most sought after servants for those. I know technically Space Ishtar has one, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you know, an absolutely devoted, unique costume dress for those characters. But yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. If you liked it, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And I do have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord. I also do have a link that you should see a video for it relatively soon, if not already seeing it on your screen, for the giveaway video. So definitely check that out. And I'll definitely be posting when I'm going to be doing that in the next couple of days or so once I get my schedule out. So feel free to check that out. And I'll see you guys back here tomorrow for the next episode of 25 Days of Fate.